Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Sports Curious Podcast. I am your co host, Amy Butchon Siegfried, joined by my wonderful brother and fantastic co host, Scott. Scott, welcome to the show today.
Thank you. It's an honor to be back with you on the podcast.
Well, I'd say the same about you. Every time I get to spend with you is an honor. Since we live in two different locations and you don't like to FaceTime, this is basically what I get for FaceTime.
This is your FaceTime.
This is my FaceTime, and all we do is talk about sports. So
Yes.
I really have no idea what's going on in Scott's life, so it's fine.
Sports,
Which I mean, really truly leads us into this week's podcast because you just went to a big soccer game, right?
Yes. All the European soccer clubs are touring throughout North America. I had a chance to go see Manchester United out of England and Dortmund out of Germany play at Allegiant Stadium, which is home of the Las Vegas Raiders. So
How was it?
It was a cool experience. About 50,000 people showed up.
Lots of cheering.
On a random Sunday. A lot of cheering, chants. Just different to see how they enjoy sporting events as to, the Americans do.
Well, I know you and I've had this discussion when we went to a Japanese baseball game. They cheer when their team's up to bat, like a soccer match. Everyone's got songs, all the things. But what I did notice is that they're not shouting obscenities at their players in Japanese baseball games. I have a feeling soccer matches are not that way.
I don't think they're quite as respectful to the opposing teams. You've got the hooligans in the stands, so
soccer fans are intense.
They are, and if you go to the pub for 4 or 5 hours before the game, I think that results in a little bit more enthusiasm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that does happen at games in Las Vegas.
Yes, it does.
There's some pre-gaming that happens.
Because then bars never close, so there's no rules.
An 8 a.m. game still wouldn't help your cause.
No.
So we decided to talk this week about European soccer, kind of in a general sense of the way, and then we'll focus a little bit on Premier League because that's also getting ready to start. But because we get a lot of questions about it, and I'll be honest, I ask you a lot of questions about it because I truly don't understand the system. You've done a really good job of explaining it to me. And since we get all these questions from people, I felt like it was really good for us to talk through this so other people can also have a baseline of what that system looks like. Because if you're American, lots of people don't understand how the system works, how European soccer leagues work. And so I thought it would be really good for us, especially with the excitement of the World Cup happening and MLS season. We're talking about Messi and getting excited about all that. And so a little bit of soccer 101 when it comes to understanding the league and how it all works and why we should be getting excited about some of these games that we're hearing about. So let's start off with kind of a little 101. So can you talk to me about, we're obviously going to talk in further later in the podcast about Premier League itself, but we're hearing about Wrexham and all these other teams. We're watching Ted Lasso and we're learning about relegation. Maybe can you give us a little bit about the tiers in soccer and what that looks like, and maybe explain that to us a little bit?
And European soccer the structure is much different than any NBA, MLB, NFL season. They're constantly playing for their country, their club, and then in in-season tournaments. So it can be kind of hard to keep track. And that's why I break it down a little bit for you. And I know we get a lot of questions about like, what is the Premier League? What is La Liga? What is Bundesliga? And they're all the different countries' top tier soccer club teams. Yes. So Premier League's England, La Liga Spain, Bundesliga is Germany, Serie A or A is Italy. so it's, those are all the different federations, if you will.
Got it. Okay. And then if we're talking Premier League, and they're the top tier in English football, what does the rest kind of look like?
Yeah, so Premier League is strictly England, and there's a ton of teams for how big England is. It's kind of impressive. So Premier League's the top, and then there's a tiered system of each different level of competition in which the teams compete. So Premier League's where you want to be if you're in England. That's where all the big money is. But there's so many different. I think there's 11 tiers below them,
Mhm.
so it's pretty intense.
So let's talk about like Wrexham, right? Wrexham, Ryan Reynolds' team, they are fourth tier. Am I correct?
Yes,
Okay.
which means they started in fifth. If I think you watched the series, but if you haven't seen the Welcome to Wrexham series, they bought into the team when they were in the fifth tier, which is really low, very little financial backing, but that's how they bought in because the financial backing wasn't there, and they had that opportunity to invest to get the team basically to overpay players to come down to fifth tier and start working their way up to the Premier League, which takes time.
Now they won last season, so did that get them to the fourth tier?
Yes.
Okay, that got them to the fourth tier. Okay, that makes sense
Yes.
then. Okay. It's exciting, and I think Ted Lasso, if you've watched it, does a good job of trying to explain what that looks like.
Mhm.
That if you're not a top performing team and you finish at the bottom of your league, right, the bottom 3 teams at the league, then you are downgraded. Is that correct?
Yes. So from the top down, the bottom three teams after each season get relegated down to the next tier.
And then the other
Uh,
teams get moved up.
then the top three get moved up. So it's constant shifting, and financial implications are huge.
Yeah,
I love that relegation system. I wish we had it for American sports,
yeah,
but we don't necessarily have the same, structure. There's no second tier NFL at this point.
yeah.
And that's how they prevent tanking. Like you hear tanking all the time in pro sports in America.
For draft picks, etc. Yeah.
If you finish the worst, you get the best draft odds. But if you're in England, you finish last, you're getting demoted.
You're going to the delve level down. It's an
Yes.
interesting concept, and I'm curious why, and you probably don't know obviously know the answer to this, but I'm curious as why when we started these systems, if this works, and obviously, we all know that England has been around for a long time, so they have the system sort of flushed
Yes.
out. Like,
Yes.
why not adopt this? I mean, I know America always likes to go rogue and do their own thing, and that might be it. But like you said, it's a really fascinating model of
Hmm.
why not give people something to get excited about, an underdog to cheer for, to hopefully come up, and it seems like a no-brainer.
I just think we don't have the structure set
Yeah.
up. It'd be tough to have 5 tiers of NFL.
Would you
There's
you
not
wouldn't
enough
have
bodies to go around.
well, and we also have a huge college system, right? So you look at the
Hmm.
NFL, college football
Is
is
essentially
that feeder, right?
yes.
When you really think about it, and they don't have
Hmm.
quite that system in place. So now, Ronaldo left to go play for a team in Saudi Arabia. Do they have this is purely European. They don't play in at all factor all this.
No, he's strictly playing Saudi Arabian teams, so that's why I don't know about you. Don't see too many of his games.
No,
I see
I can't.
highlights, but
Okay,
that's
I was
about
gonna
it.
say, yeah, I can't say I really seek them out either. So there's
No.
that. But no, you're right. I mean, it makes sense because you're not. He's the only one drawing those ratings over there, and we have a couple other athletes. It's kind of become this thing, right, of athletes to buy into soccer teams. LeBron James a while back bought into Liverpool, which is in the Premier League, and then they sold, and I think he made quite a bit of money off of that sale. But JJ Watts bought into a team, Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth. You want to share a little bit about that with us?
Yeah, I think LeBron, 2011, I want to say. I don't know that exactly, but with the Fenway Sports Group, they bought into Liverpool, and that got him a very small percentage, like 2% or something. And then from there, it's just taken off, and he's made so much money off them. And it's easier for an athlete to buy into a European soccer team than it would be to buy into a professional team here in the United States, given how expensive these franchises have become with billions of dollars.
Well, that, and I'm sure there's some parameters around active players versus retired players. Like we see Tom
Yes.
Brady buying into all kinds of things, but something
Hmm.
tells me he couldn't do that when he was an active player.
No, there's absolutely rules against it.
And so he bought into Birmingham City, which is in the Championship League. And then Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth, the golfers, are in Leeds United. Is that right? Which is also in the
Yes,
Championship League.
they're in the Championship League, which is that second tier right below the Premier League.
Okay, so one thing that always confuses me is there's
Yes.
these in-season tournaments during the season, and there's a Championship League, and then there's a Champions League tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain the confusion for that for me, please?
It can be absolutely very confusing to us Americans who don't understand the structure. So the Championship League that you spoke about is that second tier football league in England. So that's strictly their league. That's where they play. And then Champions League, which I think you asked about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Champions League is going to be, it's a tournament that is the top teams in each country's league. So they pull from all the European leagues and play a tournament of the top teams. So you're pulling from La Liga, Bundesliga, Premier League.
And they play each other
In a tournament, yes. So
in a
that's
tournament
like
in
the
those games.
highest possible level of European club soccer.
So that like truly is like, besides like a World Cup, that truly is a pinnacle of a win, because you're playing the best of the best, not just in your country, but amongst all of Europe.
Yeah, it's essentially the World Cup of European club
Soccer.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
The ultimate bragging rights.
It's just fascinating to me because you look at, like you said, these guys play their club teams, then they're playing in, you'll just have a match here or there that is their country team. So they're really always playing something somewhere.
They're always playing something.
So
you can be
it's
playing a
interesting.
Premier League game one day and then 5 days later be in a Champions League game. And it can
Like
be hard to keep track of. So these guys are constantly going.
Yeah, I feel like I mean, I find like coordinating your life with a child and like some sports and a spouse that travels or something is hard enough,
Mhm.
let alone you're playing for what? What uniform was I supposed to pack you? And where am I going to come watch you play? Because it's just there's a lot of moving pieces. It's interesting. I think it's really fascinating. I think it's really fun for the fans to be able to continue to see these players on
Mhm.
all different capacities and all different platforms, which I think is really kind of a cool way to continue to promote yourself.
Yeah, and it's easier for them to keep track because these are fans of for generations. They've
Sure.
got grandparents, great grandparents that were fans, and it's just passed down through generations.
It's kind of like Cubs fans.
Essentially, yeah.
Essentially, yeah. Um, so one other thing that's really different is selling the players' rights, these transfer fees. Talk to me a little bit about the transfer fees, because you hear of these exorbitant numbers that don't even, it's just for the right to buy the right to the player, not to pay their salary or any of those other things. It's the right to that player. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, in America, if a team wants to, trade someone from the Cubs to the Yankees, they're going to include assets like players, and they have to give up players. But in European soccer, they have the transfer fees, which doesn't involve any other players. It's strictly paying the club that they're currently signed with just for the chance to have them come over and play. So there's no it's just financial implications that really don't do anything to improve the other team
Well, it's really
other
interesting.
than give them a lot of money. And that's how a lot of these lower tier teams, they'll get transfer fees from these Premier League teams, and that's kind of where they get their economic boost.
That's what I was just
So,
going to say, that
yeah.
it's selling an asset, right? I mean,
Mhm.
in all fairness, the player is an asset that you own, that you bring up through the system,
Yes.
fine tune them, if you will, and then a bigger team says, "I want to buy them," and that's how you're making your money.
Yep. You find a Ronaldo at 17, you have someone pay you a transfer fee, they buy him, then that team gets another transfer fee. So it just kind of stacks up.
It's a fascinating model, and you see that actually. Our local team here, FC Tulsa, we are not affiliated with any Major League Soccer team, so
Mhm.
they have a very similar model, that as players come up through the system, they can sell that player to a bigger team, It's just an interesting model.
Yeah, and you're paying hundreds of millions of dollars just to get the player, not even to sign him to a contract.
To sign them, right? Ronaldo's gonna cost you, what was the one that's going around right now with Kane? Um, his signing, was it like a couple hundred mil I remember a couple hundred million?
Yes, just as a transfer fee, because he's with Tottenham right now, but it doesn't look like he's going to resign after the season. So they're taking offers on him, but they just turned down $100 million offer
That's
for
crazy because they think
for
they're gonna get more from somewhere else.
I guess it's a bold move. I
Now
guess
here's a question.
they have all the
Okay,
chips in their corner.
sure. Here's a question. So if I was Tottenham and I had this player, can
Hmm.
I sell him to anywhere outside the Premier League or outside of a UEFA, like a European team?
I want to say that the offer for Kane came from Italy, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So yeah, you can go from any country really.
So if once again going back to the Saudi Arabia
Mhm.
example, do you think they could do that, or is that certain players maybe have an opportunity to veto that?
I don't know for sure, but I don't think they deal with Saudi Arabia.
Okay, so
I
it's
could be
purely
wrong.
UEFA.
Yes,
Okay,
but
that makes
I mean,
sense.
they can get players from MLS too. So I mean, they can make offers wherever they want.
Got it.
I
That
just
makes
don't think
sense.
Premier League's not going after anybody in Saudi Arabia.
Got it. That makes sense.
Hmm.
Let's
And
talk a little
I
bit.
don't
Oh,
know.
go ahead.
I want to say I don't know if I'm 100% accurate, but I believe on a transfer fee, every team that player's ever played for gets a percentage.
Oh,
So
that's
it's like a
fancy.
trickle down effect.
It's like, why am I blanking on what they call it? Residuals when you're on a
Yes.
TV show, right? And you go to
Mhm.
TBS and get played at 2 a.m.
Yeah. So I think, as far as I know, it's a trickle down effect. So everyone kind of benefits from these ridiculous transfer fees.
That's awesome. Well done.
Yeah.
S- So speaking of ridiculous transfer fees, let's talk a little bit about Premier League because their season is getting ready to start, as in all European soccer seasons are getting ready, or football seasons are getting ready to start. But Premier League is truly the biggest. They have a TV audience of 4.7 billion. They're in 188 countries across the world. You're looking at 643 million homes watching a game. I mean, you kind of said it to me that a lot of college football fans will start off with an early Premier League soccer game, move into a college, and then a day of college football, and you basically have an entire day of football, but two different kinds
Yes.
of sports. Talk to us a little bit about the Premier League. What should we be watching for? Um, when does the season even start? Like, what does this look like for those of us who don't know a whole lot about the Premier League?
And Premier League, I believe, is the most watched league in any sport in the world.
Makes sense.
And I think it's become so popular because they've got good TV deals. It's easy to access. Like I said, I kind of got into it just by being up early because I don't sleep and watching that as we roll into college football. And NBC Sports had a big deal with them, and they show all their
Mm,
games. And I think they're now on USA Network and CNBC and Peacock if you
interesting.
have that. So
Okay.
there's so many different options to watch, and I think that's just kind of how it got to be so big.
It's fantastic. And they play from August to May.
So yeah, so
And
it's a long season
it's
going
a long season.
throughout
Well, but you're
winter. Yeah.
right. So you're throwing in, we have 20 teams total. And I saw this stat that you sent over, which is phenomenal. They play a total of 380 matches. I mean, you think about it. I used to think working in baseball that a 162 game season
Mhm.
was long. How about a 380 game season essentially?
Yeah, combined for the whole league, that's a lot of games
Yeah.
mixed in with your national team and
Yeah.
Champions League, like we spoke about. So these guys are just in incredible shape.
Well, I my kid doesn't want to play soccer anymore because you have to run too much. So, I mean, imagine running from August to May.
Yeah, I think you need to go show him Mbappe's contract offer to go play in Saudi Arabia, and maybe he'll change his mind.
Is Uncle Scott going to be his agent?
That's fine. I'll
Okay,
only take I'll only take 2%.
okay, just 2%, just a mere 2%. You got a lot of work to do with this one, so.
That's fine.
But let's wrap up with something that I thought was really interesting. Premier League is adding in more time for goal celebrations. So in the time when the NFL was being called the no fun league because they're not allowing players to celebrate, the Premier League is saying, have at it.
And it applies to injuries as well and any time wasting. I think you've watched a soccer game where someone, gets injured and lays on the ground for 5 minutes, but then gets up and is fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're trying to get rid of that in the game by adding on more time, so you have to find different tactics to stall.
That's
Does that
interesting.
make sense?
Yeah.
So as before, where there would just be maybe a few minutes of stoppage time, they're making teams pay for laying on the ground or wasting time.
As they should, I guess, right? Because
Yeah,
you watch some of these, especially when you're watching the Women's World Cup, there's a lot less dramatic, I feel like a lot less dramatic play in the Women's World Cup. Especially if you watch that US Sweden game, the ref was like, all right, just play through. She fell down. She got pushed down. Oh, well, keep going. Um, but so, yeah, it makes these games long and it makes them long for the players, right? To add on an extra 10 minutes completely changes your whole strategy in a game.
absolutely. Yeah, I'd like to add that. That's kind of why I enjoy watching the Women's World Cup, because they're not flopping, they're not embellishing.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to go down.
They're hustling.
Yeah, they're playing almost like American football style. Like, doesn't matter if you get kicked or stepped on.
That's right. It's because women are badass.
They are.
It's true. It's a true statement. Is there anything you would like to leave us with before we sign off on European Soccer 101, if you will?
I'd just like to highlight Manchester City, because I know we spoke about how dominant the Premier League is, and Manchester City last year won the treble. I
That's
think
right.
I remember we had to learn what this was.
We did.
So they won. The treble is winning the three big tournaments, and well, the two in England, which is the FA Cup, which is a competition between every club team in England, no matter what tier. So
That's right, because Wrexham got to play in that, right?
you'll have Manchester City playing like a seventh tier team of like who are bartenders and plumbers. No disrespect to them, but it's kind of a cool tournament just to
They won
see
the FA Cup.
the FA Cup. They won the Premier League, which is just the England club soccer, and then they won the Champions League, which is that basically all-star tournament of European club teams. So they are absolutely dominant, and I don't really see anything changing this season either.
That's awesome. I mean, it's neat to see that happen. I mean, I know it's a dominant team, and it's always sports can
Mm-hmm.
be boring when there's a team that just dominates, but it's kind of cool to see that they're that's not a thing that happens very often.
No, I don't remember the stats, but I think it's happened very few times. I don't remember when we had to research that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see. Well, and their crosstown rival of Manchester United, which
Mm-hmm.
used to be the mega end all team, is now got a bigger, better neighbor.
Yeah, it's definitely flipped, but I guess that's just kind of how sports go. We
That's
go
how it
through
works.
ebbs and flows of one team being dominant, and then it fall off, and another team spends a ton of money on transfer fees and
Ta-da!
gets the
Sometimes it
best
works, and
players.
sometimes it doesn't.
It does. Sometimes it doesn't. Like the
Yeah,
Mets.
like the
Sorry,
Mets,
sorry,
exactly.
Mets.
Sorry, New York Mets fans. Well, thanks for kind of explaining this to me. You've enlightened me on a lot because this is something I still have a lot of room to learn on. If you're listening and you have more questions, email us. You can email me directly at amy@lastnightsgame.com because I'd love to make sense of it all for you if there's something that you don't understand, because I think it's kind of important just to have a baseline. And when you're hearing about, especially when you're watching college football games and you're talking about Premier League and games and this and that,
Mm-hmm.
it's to me it makes sense just to have a little bit of a baseline of what this looks like. And what I'll do too is put together like a little graphic of the tiers or list them out somehow so we can make sure on our site, with this blog post and with this podcast post, that there's a graphic that explains this, because I think it does make a little bit more sense to see it as well. So thank you for your brilliance as always. Love picking your brain. Thanks for allowing me to ask you all the questions.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk soccer.
Well, we appreciate it. Thanks for not sleeping so you could watch these Premier League games just to be here today with this wealth of knowledge.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.